Are your mates constantly doing stuff that gets them killed? Do they lack any self-preservation whatsoever? Don't worry, today you will learn how to keep those buggers alive. Welcome to the Attic Dungeon, my name is Sam, and whether it's reattaching lost limbs or making sure no one begs for heals when they've lost 1 HP, I'm here to help you with everything. Ah yes, the healer, the backbone of any D&D party alongside with the tank and the damage dealer. Or is it? I've told you many times before that 5e doesn't require you to have the standard healer tank damage dealer party setup. You can divide the tasks amongst the party members, including healing, but that should not stop you from playing a healing type character if that is what you really want to do. It is your game after all, and you should always play the character that you want to. Today I'll talk a bit about healing in general and give you a few character ideas for healers. Mind you, these will not be fully designed builds like most of my other videos. Most of these builds are so straightforward that it's really not needed for me to explain them all. So for once it will be quantity over quality. As per usual, I kindly invite you to like me, subscribe to me, and all the other things you can do to make my glory eternal and my knowledge widespread. Let's start by talking about healing in general. In a lot of video games, being a healer is a full-time occupation. You're usually in charge of keeping the entire group alive, and specifically the tank. All this person ever does is blast healing magic all over the place and clear some debuffs if the game has any. In Dungeons & Dragons it works a bit differently, as you might have realized by now, because there is a human person running all the fights and dealing with all the creatures you fight. There is no aggro system. The DM can use his creatures to punch anyone on the nose at any time he or she wishes. Whether you are the strongest warrior in the front line or the squishiest wizard all the way in the back, nowhere is safe. Also, and this is very important to remember, a lot of the healing spells in D&D 5e are not as efficient as their combat counterparts. You want an example? Let's take Thunder Wave, a level 1 AoE spell. It deals 2d8 damage to whatever targets are in your 15-foot cube. You're trying to heal up people with Cure Wounds afterwards? Great, Cure Wounds heals for 1d8 plus spellcasting modifier and only targets one person. Good luck. And you might say, yeah, but that's just because it's Thunderwave. No, there's also Burning Hands, which has a 15-foot cone and deals 3d6 damage. It is a general rule that the damage spells deal more damage than the healing spells heal. And then you could say, but oh Sam, it takes a while before you encounter enemy spellcasters, doesn't it? Not really, no. Apprentice mages who have Burning Hands are a quarter challenge rating monsters. That means you can encounter them from the get-go. Your first encounter could be versus enemy spellcasters, depends on your DM of course. But not just that, quite a few of the martial characters, even at lower CRs, attack twice in a turn. Usually it's with a d6, like a mace, and they attack for 1d6 plus 2 damage, whatever. But still, that makes healing them up afterwards with Cure Wounds a bit more dodgy, because again, you're healing less than the potential damage that you took. Of course, healing has some things going for it. First, it always hits. The thug with the double mace attack is going to miss on occasion, and that is going to give your healing power the opportunity to catch up with the damage. Still, the simple mathematical approach of comparing damage versus healing output leads to a very easy conclusion. Don't heal every damage that is received by one of your party members. If your fighter starts whining because he lost 2 HP, tell him to use Second Wind and walk it off. You should not be spending your resources on all the damage you see, especially not at these lower levels where you only have 2 or 3 spell slots. Do you really want to spend 1 spell slot on healing maybe 6-7 damage if you know that an enemy can deal 8 to 9 damage if he has a decent turn? The answer is No. So it could easily be argued that attacking a creature and possibly removing it from combat is a way more efficient method of making sure that fighter doesn't take extra damage. Does that mean that a healer is just another word for a damage dealer nowadays? No, not at all. Healing is all about timing and spell choice. And on the bright side, it allows healer type characters to do so much more on the battlefield than just being an extra vat of HP for others to leech from. Let's talk timing first. Did your barbarian just take a hit but still have enough HP left to take another hit? Don't bother healing him then. D&D is not the type of game where you have to keep everybody topped up. Let them bleed a bit, it's okay. Is the next hit going to put your barbarian down though? Then you might consider tossing out some healing if you're sure that it's going to make a difference though. Handing out a healing spell slot to have the Barbie deal big damage attacks, maybe 2 times if it's already level 5, might be a good idea depending on the situation. On the other hand, it might still be better to let him take the hits, go down and then bring him back. Which brings us to our next situation. The Barbie's gone down. Now what? Immediately heal the unconscious bag of potatoes? Maybe yes, maybe no. No, if you know that he's going to be knocked down again before it's his turn. That would be a waste of your own turn and his, so then you're basically spending a spell slot to waste 2 people's turn. Yeah, that's yay. In the most extreme cases, the barbarian is right in front of you in the order queue thingy. And that would mean everyone on the field gets a chance to hit the barbarian in the face before he gets a chance to act, and that is just awful. The best case, he is right behind you in the turn order, and then you healing him means he will get that extra turn immediately and will at least have a chance to punch someone on the nose again. You heal, he gets to smash, all is well. A small trick that I've used when fighting creatures that could not understand me in some way or another was to shout at my downed target to keep still until it's safe for him to act, which means don't move until it's your turn, obviously. This allows him to pretend that he's still KO until his turn is up, and then suddenly there's a big barbarian on the field smashing stuff. This doesn't work, of course, when opponents A, have a brain, or B, understand all your languages. But it works against beasts and machines and the like. It's a nice little role-playing trick, if nothing else. Bit of a dodgy, cheesy healing mechanic. Doesn't always work though. Now that we've covered timing, let's have a look at spells. I'll start with the 2 typical healing spells found at level 1, because there is some important stuff to be learned here. On the one hand, we have Cure Wounds. It has a range of touch, takes up an action, and heals for a mighty 1d8 per spell level plus your spellcasting modifier. On the other hand, we have Healing Word, which has a range of 60 feet, uses your bonus action, but only heals for 1d4 per spell level plus your spellcasting modifier. Most players, including myself when I started playing 5e, tend to favor Cure Wounds because it has the obvious bigger healing die, and that's what we're going for, right? Right? Well, here's the math. Assuming we start with a +3 spellcasting modifier, Cure Wounds would heal around 7 to 8 HP on average, and Healing Word would do 5 or 6. Sure, Cure Wounds has a bigger maximum healing output, but the chance of attaining that is also smaller than for Healing Word. That's why you always look at averages. And damn son, when we look at those, the spells don't really differ that much. But hold on, the disappointment train has only just left the station. Once you look at Cure Wounds' other properties and compare those to Healing Word, it becomes very clear that Healing Word is the superior healing spell here. I'll give you 2 scenarios involving a bard and our friendly Barbie who's getting punched down. So, your barbarian's down, your bard has the option of running up to him, using Cure Wounds and ending up in danger, and the barbarian might as well just be punched down again. As opposed to the bard stays in the back, positions himself in an optimal way, launches a Healing Word at the barbarian, and then uses his action to insult somebody's mommy and cast vicious mockery on them. The Bard has now effectively healed the Barbarian, who hopefully can take a turn, debuffed an enemies to make the chances larger that the Barbarian effectively gets his turn, and he has optimized his positioning. Your action economy becomes so much better by using Healing Word instead of Cure Wounds. And that concludes combat healing for now. What I've said about Cure Wounds and Healing Word also applies to Mass Cure Wounds and Mass Healing Words, though I could see a team in need of the larger chunk of healing a Mass Cure Wounds provides. Most of the time Healing Word is going to be, even Mass Healing Word is going to be the better spell to cast. What about healing outside of combat? Is it alright for me to pop the Cure Wounds at that point to get the larger healing, since action economy is not really a thing then? Well, if you're immediately expecting follow-up combat, it might help a bit. But in all other cases, I would say hells to the no. Try to take a short rest. Have the lazy buggers use some of their hit dice first. Everybody has them, half the people don't use them. In a lot of cases, hit dice and a short rest will be enough to get people back to a stable amount of hit points. If your party members are still in need of healing, then by all means apply some of that precious healing magic to fix their faces. But for the sake of your resource management, kindly point out that every class has some healing available to them because of the hit dice system, and that they receive half of them back after a long rest. So really the first half of your hit dice should be spent before you start spending spell slots to heal people outside of combat. Important side note for healing outside of combat. Very recently, namely on April 1st, 2020, the Healing Spirit spell, which was infamous for being able to heal everyone to max HP outside of combat, has received a few changes. The way it used to work was very simple. You conjure the Healing Spirit and somebody would gain hit points whenever they ran through the Healing Spirit the first time on their turn. But outside of combat, where you don't really have turns, your entire party could keep running laps through the Healing Spirit until they were all at maximum HP again. It was without a doubt the most effective spell to heal outside of combat. They've changed that now. The Healing Spirit can only heal a number of times equal to 1 plus your spellcasting modifier. So that would mean a total of 6 if your spellcasting stat is at 20. That is a very large change to the spell, and thus comes an end to Healing Spirit's much debated position as a must-have out-of-combat healing spell. Now that you have learned that spamming heals isn't going to be your best course of action as a healer, what else should you do on those turns where dropping a well-placed fight-saving heal bomb is not required? Well, you can always blast some enemies in the face, of course. There's always that option. You can also provide your enemies with debuffs or your allies with powerful buffs. For quite often, the right buff at the right time is worth more than a heal. You want a nice example? The Aid spell. Damn it, I love this one. Aid is a 2nd level spell that allows you to increase 3 people's max HP by 5 for 8 hours. When the extra HP is lost, you can just heal it up again. I love this spell. It makes people harder to take down before combat even starts. It's a spell a bit like Mage Armor that you usually cast at the end of a long rest. This means that you don't have to spend a turn in combat actually activating this buff, and you can again spend your turn helping allies in other ways. Also important, these are actual hit points, not temporary ones. As you know, you can only have one chunk of temporary hit points buffing your character at any given time, but seeing as Aid provides real hit points, you can still add temporary hit points from something like False Life, for example. Even better, spells that provide maximum hit points stack. So at higher levels you can have both Aid and Hero's Feast. buffing your character's hit points up to wazoo and then still apply a pool of temporary hit points. This is a very nice way of preparing your characters for combat. You will have to heal a bit less during the fight because you've given them a lot more HP before the fight. And this short sidestep to aid brings me to an important announcement. Healing people is not the only way you can be a healer in D&D 5e. It's crazy, I know, but the previous bit about aid demonstrates a type of healing other than the one where you just spam healing word all day long. I've said that a healer can do many things to keep the party alive. Those things are actually healing, making the party better at tanking damage, debuffing an enemy so that they don't hit the party that often, or just killing an enemy, removing a source of damage altogether. All of these contribute to keeping your party alive, and as a healer you have to pick the best option during each of your turns. Buffing, debuffing, healing or hurting, it's all up to you, and it's a vital choice every turn when you're playing a healer. The last thing I'll do for today is go over the classes that I see fit to act as a type of healer, and I'll tell you how they can achieve this. Let's start with the obvious one here, Clerics. Clerics can do so much in this game with all the domains they can choose from, and it is very obvious that there is a healer type amongst these domains. That is, of course, the Life Cleric, maybe the best known archetype of a healer in the game. This person with divine powers capable of bringing people back from the brink of death. Life Clerics gain a lot of things. They gain a nice amount of spells that are always prepared and great for supporting your party. So that you can prepare other spells to provide a mix of utility and offensive power. And healing word, because you always get cure wounds prepared but not healing word, and remember what I said, so prepare healing word, you're welcome. They also gain heavy armor proficiency, which ought to keep you alive for a longer amount of time in most cases, and important, from level 1 on, your healing spells heal for an extra 2 plus the spell level. So now healing word suddenly is this super effective healing spell, healing for anything in between 7 and 10 HP at level 1. That is amazing. Later on, your healing spells heal you as well when you target someone else, but their greatest toy is without a doubt their capstone ability at level 17. No more dice rolling. Your healing spells always heal for max possible HP. That is some efficient heal blasting right there. Obviously, the Life Cleric, any cleric really has access to all the great healing spells, is a great and effective heal bomb type of healer. They also get loads of support spells like Bless and Aid at lower level and Hero's Feast at higher level, Warding Bond, Shield of Fate. A cleric's arsenal is immense when it comes to buffing the party. They also get all the spells to cleanse debuffs and support the party in that way, so that you're sure that paralyzing and poison and blindness and what have you won't be a nuisance to your people, while still retaining a respectable damage output. They are really all around a fun class to play. Now, how would you feel about having that level 17 Life Cleric capstone at level 1? Because then you should really like the Grave Cleric. His level 1 ability, Circle of Mortality, allows you to use the max healing of a spell if you're targeting someone who's currently at 0 HP. Remember how I told you that healing a target that has gone down is usually more efficient than healing a target who's almost down? Well, this guy is just embodying that rule, really. Max healing on anyone that is at 0 HP starting from level 1. It's an entirely new action economy of healing with the Grave Cleric. He also has the unique ability to support his party by turning critical hits into normal hits a few times a day. And And his capstone allows him to heal somebody once per turn whenever an enemy dies, so that's nice as well. All in all, if you like healing but are sick and tired of having to radiate holy light from all of your orifices to do so, the Grave Cleric is right up your alley as a strong healer and a decent debuffer of the enemies. The other go-to healer in many people's eyes would be the Druid. Oddly enough, we had to wait until Xanatar's Guide to Everything for them to gain a circle that actually gave them some extra healing power, and that arrived with the Circle of Dreams. It does quite an amazing job with a spell list that allows you to heal and support allies or hinder enemies as well, and at level 2 you get a number of dice equal to your Druid level that both heal and provide a tiny smudge of temporary hit points. It's always nice when abilities grow more powerful as you do, and this one does because you gain more dice as you attain more and more Druid levels. While the Dream Circle doesn't offer any other healing related ability, its ability to teleport an ally on the battlefield out of harm's way is very valuable, and providing extra cover while resting is really handy to have. Some people add a level of Life Cleric to their Circle of Dreams Druid, and it is entirely fair to do so. The level 1 abilities of a Life Cleric, or a Grave Cleric for that matter, are good enough to complement this healing Druid. Quick side note on Goodberry. I've heard plenty of abuse when it comes to Goodberry, where a Life Cleric Druid mix conjures a bunch of them and then claims that since the berries get the extra healing from the level 1 Life Cleric ability, you can eat a berry and it heals you for 4 HP instead of 1, and you conjure 10 of these berries, so hey, that's 40 HP from a level 1 healing spell. I always kindly point out the fact that Goodberry also clearly states that it provides you with as much food as you need for an entire day. Hence, I imagine no character, save for maybe a very, very hungry halfling, would eat 10 good berries to gain all that healing. They would just be bloated and incapacitated by a monstrous amount of food in their belly. I will always allow the extra healing per berry, seeing as that is a really legit use of the mechanic, and you can hand the berry to multiple characters, they can each get the 4 HP. That's all good for me, but I will never allow overeating on good berries without a penalty. Now that the obvious 2 healing classes are out of the way, let's toss in something a bit more dodgy. How about a Thief Rogue with a Healer Feat? The Healer Feat allows you to use a Healer's Kit to heal someone for 1d6 plus 4 plus your max amount of hit dice, and one Healer's Kit has 10 charges to do so. While not qualifying as a full healer, this will surely get the job done in a pinch. Why? A thief can use the Healer's Kit as a bonus action thanks to his Fast Hands ability, or in a pinch can use the same bonus action to disengage towards a target in need, or to dash across the battlefield to a target in need, and then still use his action to apply some healing to a wounded mate. But the first option is always the better one. Run to an ally, heal him with a bonus action, and then shank whatever target is right next to them, again gaining your sneak attack because your ally is conscious now. Because remember, dead enemies don't deal damage, so healing and stabbing someone at the same time is a wonderful combination. Next up we have the Bard. While the Bard has no class options whatsoever that boost healing directly, they can still make for very decent healer, and they will supplement their healing powers with a load of buffs and debuffs. Vicious Mockery on its own, the archetypical Bard cantrip, mitigates some damage normally with a disadvantage, and your best option here would be to go Lore Bard to gain Cutting Words. Cutting Words is a way of using your Bard dice to reduce another creature's attack roll. Basically, they attack and then you can counter roll a d10 and you subtract that number from their attack roll. You can do that 5 times per short rests once you reach level 5. It is a great way to make sure your allies don't receive any damage whatsoever. Again, not receiving any damage is better than healing damage. You can also use your magical secrets to strengthen your healing powers should you wish to do so, and the Bard is also a great candidate for the Inspiring Leader feat, allowing you to supply a very decent amount of temporary hit points to your party at the end of every short rest or long rest. If you do this and pick up Aid as a magical secret, and then your Bard becomes a very powerful preemptive healer, as I've explained before, making sure the party is well equipped to handle any danger they might encounter, and then responding on the spot to anything that might happen with stuff like the Cutting Words ability. Our next healer is maybe the class that you would least expect to heal: Warlocks. Thanks to the Celestial Patron choice, even Warlocks with their dodgy spell slots and dark spell list can function as a party healer. The sad news is they don't get Healing Word, they get Cure Wounds though. The good news is they gain a healing ability from their Celestial Patron. At level 1, a bit like the Dreams Druid, you get dice equal to your Warlock level. The great thing here is you can use them as a bonus action to heal people, and the pool will reset on a long rest. You don't get Healing Word, you are Healing Word. Later abilities will allow you to hand out temporary hit points to yourself and your allies, so this Warlock has no need for the Inspiring Leader feat. He kind of gets it on the go. By the way, you are still a Warlock, you have enough shenanigans in that list to debuff enemies, to complement your healing abilities, or to just shoot them in the face with a double Eldritch Blast or whatever. You're a Warlock with healing powers. Enjoy life. I already briefly mentioned Paladins. They don't get a healer subclass whatsoever, but all Paladins have Lay on Hands, which heals for a nice amount. You can use 5 hit points per Paladin level of healing power, and also for 5 hit points, if I'm not mistaken, you can remove any disease or poison from a target. You also get access to Aid, and again, you're a great candidate for the Inspiring Leader feat. And if really needed, you could pop a spell slot on Cure Wounds as well, all while still smiting the living bejeebus out of your enemies or tanking a fair amount of damage, or both. You're a Paladin, life is great. Now that we're talking about semi-spellcasters as healers, let's not exclude the Alchemist Artificer. He gets so little love on the forums, but he's actually pretty decent in a healing role. He gets both Healing Word and Mass Healing Word, and we all know that we have to love those spells by now, right? Furthermore, Artificers provide good buffs to the party, and the Alchemist adds to that with the Elixirs. While you might not always get the Healing Elixir, except if you spend spell slots to get it, at higher levels your Elixir also provides temporary hit points to whomever drinks them, and you can also cast a Lesser Restoration for free at higher levels a few times a day. A lot later, at level 15, you can cast Greater Restoration for free and Heal. And that's quite nifty because Heal is a level 6 spell and Artificers only learn up to level 5 spell. So this Alchemy Artificer cheats a bit with a hybrid spellcaster martial system. To top this all off, starting from level 5, whenever you roll dice to heal someone or to deal specific amounts of damage, you can add your intelligence modifier to one of the dice. This means that if you have 18 intelligence at level 5, your Healing Word heals for 1d4 plus 4 from your intelligence modifier, plus 4 from your alchemy bonus, which is also your intelligence modifier, which is not at all bad for a semi-caster. Of course, the fact that you don't have full spell slots hampers you somewhat as a full healer, but you will be able to keep your party going for quite a while. Our last entry in the Who is Your Healer contest is the Divine Soul Sorcerer. Why? It's very simple. Apart from the Sorcerer list, which has a lot of great spells on its own, this one also gets access to the full Cleric spell list. Of course, he is limited by the amount of spells that he can learn. Pick up Healing Word though, learn Twin Spell once you get access to it, and voila, you can now use one spell slot to cast Healing Word on 2 different targets. Or, as I've covered before, the Divine Soul Sorcerer with Twin Cast is a great buffer / debuffer. I would very much like to refer to my BuffBot video where I explain all of that in great detail. Later on, you get the ability to use sorcery points to re-roll dice that are used for healing, both by you or by someone else, and these sorcerers also get access to both Aid and Hero's Feast, and are a great candidate for Inspiring Leader, making them the single greatest HP increasing power of any party in the game. So as you can see, there are 7 classes that are very capable of fulfilling this archetypical healer role in a party, all while still doing something else as well, be it buffing, debuffing, or just attacking people. So next time someone around you claims that being the healer of a party is boring, play one of these classes and prove them wrong. Even better, show them this video and I'll prove them wrong as well. Teamwork makes the dream work, and that is why I'll gladly see you again next time in the Attic Dungeon.